civil rights laws. The website CNET is reporting the FBI is asking internet companies not to oppose a controversial proposal that would require firms, including Microsoft, Facebook, Yahoo, and Google, to build in back doors for government surveillance. The FBI has drafted a proposed law that would require social networking websites and providers of instant messaging and web email alter their code to ensure their products are wiretap-friendly. The legislation is reportedly one component of what the FBI has internally called the National Electronic Surveillance Strategy.
My father was a writer. You would have liked him. He used to say that artists use lies to tell the truth while politicians use them to cover the truth up.
A man after my own heart.
So, I read that the former United States is so desperate for medical supplies that they have allegedly sent several containers filled with wheat and tobacco. A gesture, they said, of goodwill. I think it's payback time for a little tea party they threw for us a few hundred years ago.
Help!
For God's sake, don't touch it.
Dad, what's wrong with the telly?
Good evening. There are, of course, those who do not want us to speak.
Let me think, just let me think.
I suspect even now, orders are being shouted into telephones, and men with guns will soon be on their way. Words will always retain their power. Words offer the means to meaning, and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. And the truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country. Cruelty and injustice, intolerance and oppression. And where once you had the freedom to object, to think and speak as you saw fit, you now have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity and soliciting your submission.
We need cameras.
How did this happen? Who's to blame? Well, certainly there are those who are more responsible than others, and they will be held accountable. But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror.
He used to say that artists use lies to tell the truth while politicians use them to cover the truth up.
I know why you did it. I know you were afraid. Who wouldn't be? War, terror, disease. There were a myriad of problems which conspired to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense. Fear got the best of you, and in your panic you turned to the now High Chancellor Adam Sutler. He promised you order, he promised you peace, and all he demanded in return was your silent, obedient consent. His hope was to remind the world that fairness, justice, and freedom are more than words. They are perspectives. So if you've seen nothing, if the crimes of this government remain unknown to you, then I would suggest that you allow the 5th of November to pass unmarked. But if you see what I see, if you feel as I feel...
There is something wrong with this country.
He used to say that artists use lies to tell the truth while politicians use them to cover the truth up.
The question I have to ask is, what if the worst, the most horrifying biological attack in this country's history was not the work of religious extremists? These coincidences, and I have to ask, what if that isn't what happened? What if someone else unleashed that virus? What if someone else killed all those people? Would you really want to know who it was? Even if it was someone working for this government? That's my question. If our own government was responsible for the deaths of almost 100,000 people, would you really want to know?
Our story begins, as these stories often do, with a young up-and-coming politician.
He's completely single-minded and has no regard for the political process. The more power he attains, the more obvious his zealotry, and the more aggressive his supporters become. Eventually, his party launches a special project in the name of national security. However, the true goal of this project is power. Complete and total hegemonic domination. Imagine a virus, the most terrifying virus you can, and then imagine that you and you alone have the cure. He is a man seemingly without a conscience, for whom the ends always justify the means, and it is he who suggests that their target should not be an enemy of the country, but rather the country itself. Fueled by the media, fear and panic spread quickly, fracturing and dividing the country until at last the true goal comes into view. And not long after the election, lo and behold, a miracle. Some believed it was the work of God himself, but it was a pharmaceutical company controlled by certain party members that made them all obscenely rich. But the end result, the true genius of the plan, was the fear. Fear became the ultimate tool of this government, and through it, our politician was ultimately appointed to the newly created position of High Chancellor.
I suddenly had this feeling that everything was connected. It's like I could see the whole thing. One long chain of events that stretched all the way back before Lark Hill. It was like a perfect pattern laid out in front of me. And I realized that we were all part of it. And all trapped by it.
He used to say that artists use lies to tell the truth while politicians use them to cover the truth up.
A man after my own heart.